Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. I want to let you know tomorrow is the big day. Mule and Donkey Saddle Myths Busted. That is our free program tomorrow night. And if you have not registered yet, click the link in the comment section, get signed up. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great program, and it's one that we want you to be there for. Why? Because there are so many problems that can be avoided. We want you to know about them ahead of time because they are popular myths that need to be busted, meaning you're going to see some of these approaches, some of this advice, some of these techniques show up in Facebook or on Reddit or on different blogs, and we want you to be wise to them before you make the mistake of going out and trying them. Now, of course, try whatever we share with you. If it don't work for you, you can find something else, but we're going to bring you what we have learned, what Steve has learned over 4 decades of working with the mule and donkey, listening to the mule and the donkey for what they say they want. And what they want often provides the very best experience for you. So today's program, it's actually one of our other online clinics. This is how to train your own mule or donkey. You are more capable than you think. We did this one last year, and I'm bringing it back to share with you. It's part of our wisdom collection on muleranch.com. So I hope you enjoy today's program, and we'll see you for tomorrow's. Enjoy. And then if you hear us talking about mules, everything we talk about mule applies to the donkey. And if you hear us talking about donkey, everything applies to the mule. If there's anything that is specifically for one or the other, Steve speaks up and lets you know. But when you hear us say mule, you can hear us say donkey. When you hear us say donkey, you can hear us say mule. Now, before we open up that gate and let Steve go, I want to let you know that the things we're going to talk about tonight, there is really only one tool that I'm going to tell you have to have, and that is the come-along rope. When we start talking about communicating, when we start talking about bump, bump, up, when we start talking about ask, tell, demand, when we start talking about respect the halter, we are assuming that you are using a come-along rope. Not just any rope will do. The come-along rope is a very specific rope. The way that it's been braided and the way that it's been waxed and cared for and the way that you do ongoing maintenance. It's very specific. So the whole time we're assuming that you're using the come-along rope. There will be some other things that we mention. We might mention the martingale. We might mention a surcingle or a rope halter. But there's one thing that you got to have, and that's the come-along rope. Steve, with that said, I thought it would be helpful right off the bat to define what do we mean by train, because you've said so many times, there's no such thing as a trained mule. There's no such thing as a trained mule. Well, if that's the case, then what are we even doing here? When you say you can train your own mule, what do you mean?
Well, when I say that, Dave, is communicating. Training is communicating. You and I right now, as we're talking, we know what we're saying. We understand what we're saying. And I don't have to train you to say, okay, Dave, when I talk about a pencil or if I talk about a pen, you know exactly what I'm talking about with a pen. And it's basically training is communication. Okay. But foundation is what we need to understand, Dave. Do you see the difference? Foundation is these are the steps to cue to say this is a pen. Okay. The steps are this. I pick up the pen. I tell you the pen is blue and white. I tell you to put it down on the paper and move it, and it starts making letters. That is trained. That is foundation. If I'm training, I can say, here's my pen. I go down and I know how to use it. I know how to use it, but I have to start with first defining this is foundation training. Does that make sense?
Yep, that does. There's a few things that I have put together from listening to you over the years, and a few of those that really made sense to me in terms of like train and communicating well and putting you in the best position to be able to communicate well. First off, is becoming the herd leader. Why is it important to become the herd leader in this when you're going through your training program?
Okay, we're in another whole world here. When we go into the mule and donkey world, we're in another world. They have different communication skills than what we use. It's like going into another country and speaking that language. Yes, you can point like this and point at that glass and understand, but now pointing at the glass, what do you want to do with the glass? So we have to learn to communicate. We're in their world. They cannot communicate with us any other way other than what they know. They only know what they know. Oh, excuse me. To be an
Hey, I feel
equine.
the same way. I passed that off on him. I was yawning earlier, folks. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Steve.
yeah,
They only know what they know.
yeah. To be an equine, okay? They understand comfortable, uncomfortable, right off the bat. They understand ask, tell, demand, right off the bat. They understand all 5 of those skills. Okay, that is their life. They also understand I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. I have to take off running because a predator is after me. I can stand still because everything is okay. You see? So those things, those ask, tell, demand, comfortable, uncomfortable, all go into this part of I can stand still. No, I need to run. No, I need to eat. No, I need to drink. Okay. And so when you are communicating with these animals, you have to learn those 5 skills: ask, tell, demand, comfortable, uncomfortable. Now, as you're reading them, read these animals, watch them, see what they're saying. If they duck their head, they're asking for permission. If they lick their lips, I understand. When they're nice and quiet and their eyes big and brown and they're quiet, I've got it. That's good. You see, things like that, you need to take time to understand. And here's the thing, Dave. I don't know anybody that is buying a mule or a donkey to be annoyed. I don't know anybody that's bought a mule or a donkey that wants to constantly have hassles. Everybody I know of, guess what they want to do? They want to escape their world and go into a world where they can be comfortable and enjoy life. Okay, that's what they want to do. And so therefore, that's things like that you have to start. You have to spend time with them, not just petting them, not just brushing them, but watch them walk, watch them look at another animal, watch them be around another animal, watch how they move their ears, watch how they move their nose. In other words, what I say, watch for the spot, the small stuff. The small stuff is going to teach you the big stuff.
So the last thing on when we're talking about train, we really actually mean foundation. That's the translation there. When we're talking about training, we're talking about building a foundation and then building upon that. And so, Steve, you've got a great video that I want to show folks right here. And as we're watching, if you've got any comments, go ahead and make them. But there's really what you want to see, what we're going to help you try to get to is to be able to do turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, side pass and back up all in a 10-foot circle. And here's a video showing what our hope is or what we're aiming for here. So
when somebody tells me they bought a trained animal, guess what they're telling me? The mule knows everything. The donkey knows everything. I've got a trained animal. I just learned how to learn. I need to learn how to do him. In other words, what they're saying is they don't need to do anything but ride that mule, that donkey. That my donkey and my mule know everything. That's what they're saying to me. Okay. Does that make sense to you? So that's the whole thing. People say my mule and donkey is trained. I just got to figure out where their training is, and that's not it. Okay, training doesn't mean that they know everything. Training means they know a few things. So next, go ahead, Dave. The hind quarters. So the back end stays in place, front end goes over. So I want the guy to show me. Here the mule goes, and back end stays in place, front end move over. Turn on the hind quarters. Okay, turn on the forehand. Front end stays in place, back end moves around. If he's trained, we're going to see this. If he's not trained, all you're doing is setting this mule. You're buying a $5,000 mule that doesn't side pass a trail, that's not trained. You guys got the picture? All right. So now we turn on the front end. The front end stays in place. Back end moves around. I'll take it. Side pass. Okay. We could say that this mule has a foundation. You know, at first, like I was talking about, trained. I was using that word that everybody's used to hearing. Okay, very few people you hear about them talking about foundation. See, once I was talking about he's trained, then I said, okay, now that this is what a foundation looks like. They can do these things. Was it pretty? No. Was the front end moving around? Yes. Okay. Was the back end moving around? Yes. But it is the beginnings of a foundation that, and it will get better. Trained means he's finished. It's it. You don't need no more of the training. That's not it. Okay. Foundation means we get a start and then we build on that foundation.
That's a very important distinction, at least from my perspective, that we're looking to build a foundation. We're not looking to finish everything and then say, boom, trained. But it's this constant coming back, tuning up, fixing things. One day, everything will be fine on the trail. The next day, they'll see a piece of grass and it'll throw them off. And you got to get back and tune up. So, Steve, the last thing before we get to pre-training is I want folks to know how much they should be aiming for when they're training, when they're getting out there and they're doing some of these exercises. How long should they be training for each day and how many days a week?
My basic thought is 4 to 6 hours a week. That's it, 4 to 6 hours. Over a span time. Not everything done on a Saturday, everything done on a Wednesday. Okay. So over a span time, you're going to spend 4 to 6 hours. All right. Now, that does not mean that you're going to spend 30 minutes picking up the feet. That does not mean you're going to spend 30 minutes turning on the forehand, turning on the hindquarters. No, never put a time frame on these animals. Okay. Always use 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay. That's very, very important. That's exactly what these mules understand. It's exactly how a donkey understands 3, 6, 9, 12. And by doing that, you're starting with 3 and going to 12. That is building a foundation because every day the mule, the donkey gets better and you use less to get more. And that's always really important to understand. You'll get to where instead of using a lot of pressure on that come along hitch, you just barely have to touch it, barely have to move it around. And that's when you start seeing that you're taking and doing it all correct. Okay. Not just a 30 minutes on a come along rope, but over a span of time. Now, when they have it, never put 30 minutes or 15 minutes on them. Say, okay, he dropped his head. He's got it. He's got it. He tipped his ear a little bit. He's got it. Took a sigh. Blowed out a little air. Relaxed. He's got it. I want him just as quiet when I end my session as when I begin my session. Okay. That right there is building a foundation. That is not trained. See, like I said before, people say, I've got a trained mule. In other words, they figure he's done. He doesn't need any more. Okay. No, it's not it. Okay. That's why I say I've never seen a trained mule. I've seen a mule that is missing parts in his foundation that needs to be fixed. Okay. And I've seen the very best of qualified riders, qualified horses. Like one time I watched Al Dunning. He was riding a hackamore and he was doing some slide stops. And this horse had did 1,000 slide stops. He traveled all over the United States doing not only training seminars, but competitions. This horse knew how to side stop, okay, how to slide stop. He knew it. And guess what? Here he is, world-class trainer. He's making a slide, and all of a sudden the horse sold him out and just kind of made 2 extra steps. A horse with a good foundation, a mule with a good foundation, a donkey with a good foundation will still try to make and do things their way. Okay, they'll do it. So Al immediately fixed the problem. Bump, 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 bump. Backed him up a few times. Got after him. Showed him, hey, you don't do that. You have to get after him, folks. You don't do that. Went back and did that slide stop. Next time was perfect. Perfect. So anyway, that'll give you a fair idea of what I'm talking about.
So here's what I want to talk about. Is there anything else? And you said, well, I want to talk about pre-training. I want to talk about the things that they really need to be thinking about before they start to train. And the first thing that you mentioned was feed. Will you talk us through what you mean by pre-training, why that's important, and feed, and what other elements do we need to be thinking about?
Yes. Okay, so your mule, your donkey, needs to be prepared for the new world he's going into. Okay, physically and mentally. They have to be fed according to their training program. Okay, you can't just feed hay and say he's going to be good. No way can they perform and build muscle on just hay. All right, they need a feeding program that is designed for them. That means you need to be keeping an eye on them. For instance, let me just give you an easy one. When they start getting kind of lackadaisical and they don't quite have the energy to do something, all right, it's time to start adding some more grain, okay, or adding my first time to grain them, and I use whole oats to grain them with. Okay, they need grain as they're going to keep their energy level up, because as you're training on a daily basis, okay, there's nothing wrong with training every day, a little bit at a time. You don't need to. You don't need to, but if you're training on a daily basis, you're doing a few minutes here and there, you're doing a few little sessions here and there, okay, and these animals are paying attention, you're going to need to feed them accordingly. They've got to have a quality hay. They've got to have quality grain, okay, and you need to see when you can add to it or take it away, okay. You need to be seeing that. That's why I went and started developing the pellet, so that the pellet was able to give the animals all they need. They don't need just hay, okay, to eat. They don't need just grain for energy. They need vitamins and minerals. And you must do a hair follicle test or a blood test to know what your animal needs, okay? It's no different than you training yourself or me training myself. I need to know what I need to have so that I can physically do what I need to do. Running, walking, whatever it may be, okay? And so I need to feed accordingly. And that's what you got to do with your feeding program. Now, I can tell you that as I am training on my animals and I'm feeding, I'm watching them all the time. I'm watching if they're getting really squirrely. I'm watching to see if, well, they're not really squirrely, but they just didn't quite get it. So I'll do it again, you know. Or do I have to change my feed? Feed is extremely important. You can't just put them out there on a pasture and have them run on all that smorgasbord out there and expect them to do well. They can't do it. So going back, your feeding program is extremely, extremely important. Now, before the feeding program, your animal must be physically ready, teeth floated, caught up on all the shots, having be wormed. That's all really important. He has to be in physical condition to start with, a good physical condition. He's not going to be in his prime physical condition like he is when you're on the end of your foundation, but he's going to be in physical condition so that he can handle the daily and the weekly regiments of working in a surge single, working in a come along rope, working in a wagon, working in pack equipment. Okay, They have to be doing it. That's why it's foolish, folks. It's foolish when you say riding for just for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. No, no. How do you know that that's all that mule needs? You see, most of us, most people, Dave, they're only thinking about the riding aspects of it. Well, get him rode, and once you get him rode a few times, and he's gentle enough that I can ride him. That's what they're doing. Okay? No, 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 no. Build a foundation to get there.
So you already mentioned it. We talked about what do we mean by training. We talked about the tools we need, 4 to 6 hours of training a week. You don't have to train every day. We talked about pre-training, but you mentioned 3, 6, 9, 12. And I think that's important to just very briefly, let me explain that and you tell me if I understood it correctly. What we want to do is no matter what technique we're working with, no matter what aspect of training we're working on, no matter what we want them to do, we want them to get it. And so you use the 3-6-9 method in order to ensure that they get it. So if I'm trying to teach him to back up with just a little bit of pressure, tiny bit of pressure with the come along rope, I apply that pressure, and if he backs up, I have 1. Now he's standing. I apply that pressure. If he backs up again, now I have 2. And then I apply just that little bit of pressure, and if he backs up again, I have 3, and I'm done. He's got it. I'm good. And then when I come back the next day or 2 days later, I do the exact same thing, but I go for 6 good ones in a row. And if he doesn't do that, then I start back over and I try just going for 3 good ones in a row. And then I work my way all the way up to 12. And that doesn't mean that forever and always he's got it, but that means that he has a foundation to do what I'm asking him to do. And that if he ever doesn't do that, I go back to that 3, 6, 9, 12 to tune him up and remind him. Is that a good explanation of how 3, 6, 9, 12 works? Would you add anything there?
Nope. I think the only thing I would kind of add in general is he did it one time, back up, and did it nice to your satisfaction. And then you did it a second time. He did it quicker and more willingly, even better, and satisfied you. And then the third one was more willing, more quicker. Boom, we got it. Okay, and that's really nice when they're willingly each time understand. Because see, you're making them uncomfortable when you're using that rope on their nose. And what do they want? They want to be comfortable. And how does that feel? Okay, it feels like this. When you bump on their nose to back up, you made them uncomfortable, and they're thinking, what do I have to do to get you not to bump on my nose? And then the second time they say, okay, you bumped on my nose, boom, 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 boom. I'm going to back up on number 3, boom, 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 rather than number 5. Got the idea? And then the same thing on the third one. Man, they're going to be willing because they don't want to be uncomfortable. So they're more willing to be quicker with it.
When they run off, I'm trying to approach them, and then they run off. What do? You make them uncomfortable. They communicate through comfortable, uncomfortable, ask, tell, demand. That's what Steve has learned from the mule. And Steve, I pulled a video showing you approaching the mule, and I thought this was a really good place to start when we're getting into training, because we got to approach the mule. So I'm going to play this video, and I want you to tell me anything beyond the video that we need to pay attention to, or maybe you're doing that we don't see. So I'll go ahead and I'll start playing this.
Okay, now right now, Miss Mule says, I don't understand you. There's the licking of the lips and dropping of the head. All I did was just make a little bit tough because she was not paying attention to me. When I come in the corral, I'm the boss. It's like when my wife comes in the house, she's the boss. So now notice I approach the shoulder. I didn't allow the mule to come to me. I went to the mule. Always do that. The mule is never allowed to be in my space. I am allowed to come into his space. Does that make sense to everybody? All right? All right. So once we do that, I approached the shoulder and I petted on the shoulder. Now, when we're looking for mules to buy,
So I'm fast forwarding here.
out his back from us sitting on him, the back is usually like this. The backbone's all together like this. When we sat on their back, that changed.
Let's see, here he goes.
Hey,
He walks off. What are you trying to do right there, Steve?
Okay, the mule just notes his left ear. His left ear said, "I'm leaving." What I was trying to do is get the mule to turn around and face me. Notice I'm not walking up to the mule. I'm just putting a lot of pressure out here. Okay? Putting a lot of pressure back behind the mule. A lot of pressure. Making the mule uncomfortable. Making the mule uncomfortable. There. See, now the mule turned to look at me. I got quiet. You see that? I wait. And the mule's thinking, boy, I like that, but now my neck is getting sore because I'm bending around. What do I got to do to get comfortable? And I'm just going to sit here and be quiet. Notice the left ear says, I'm leaving. Nope, I think I better stay here.
I want her to take and start to go away from me.
Okay,
And I'm
so
waiting.
Now I got
Go
my
ahead.
right brain looking
so what I was going to say is what it sounds like you're saying is anything other than looking straight at me, I want to make you uncomfortable because I want you to pay attention to me and watch me and do what I tell you to do. Is that what you're looking for here?
Exactly. That'd be just like another mule or another horse getting after this guy. Okay. But you see, as soon as he got where he turned and looked at me, that's when I got quiet. You know, you never want to approach one when his butt's at you. You don't want to go past that butt because a lot of people have been kicked by it. So I get him to turn and face me, just like that mule did a couple times.
I picked out this next video, and it starts off right away with you placing your hands, right hand around, left hand over side of the nose, and just getting the animal to hold still. Now, the reason why I chose this one is because to me, it seems like this is a very simple, very straightforward thing to where you're standing there dictating what you want the animal to do. And as soon as the animal doesn't do it, you put pressure on the nose. I want to play this, and then I want you to maybe help explain this, why this is a beneficial thing to do as you're trying to start to, communicate. So here we go.
and just relax. Right hand goes right to here. Left hand goes here. And just relax and just be there. Good for you. All right. Now I'll take my bridle. If you leave me, you're going to be uncomfortable. Yeah. Left ear's on me, left eye. Look at that. So the left brain's thinking about me. Invitation's still on. But if you leave me, but then people want to pet me. I'm just sure they want to pet me. If you leave me, I'm going to make it uncomfortable. Do you see what I tried to do?
If your mule doesn't like to.
If the coat was rough, they're mule to keep his head down, and I'm going to take this finger right here, and I'm going to rub the bars of the mouth, and I'm going to rub the bars.
And so that's installing the martingale. But then down here, let's see, just right here at the beginning, it's just you holding their head
relax.
in place. Now, why are you doing that right there?
Right hand goes right to
Doing
here.
that so they'll learn to accept the bit with them being relaxed. When their nose is over to me and their head is down, all five major neck muscles are relaxed and easy. When the nose is on the vertical, that means he's listening to me. You putting a bridle on is not important. It's important that the animal is relaxed. He's just as relaxed when I begin as when I end. So that's why I train him first to relax, to be in a relaxing position, then accept the bit. See, things like that is foundation training. So many people come to me with bridle problems because they can't get the bridle on, okay? But it's not, you don't start with the bridle. You start by teaching the animal to relax like this. You see that?
So, yeah, so he looks pretty relaxed right there. And what I heard you say is it's not important to get the bridle on. Right here is you've got to have patience for them to
Yeah.
finally be still. And what it's kind of hard to see right here, but like your hand is touching right now, but the goal is not to keep your hand right there. The goal is to be able to take your hand away and for him to leave his head in place. And then the
Yep.
second that he moves his head, you put your hand right back there and say, no, I want your head right here. And that's
Right.
foundation training. Even if you're not going to give them the bit, you're teaching them to pay attention to what you're doing as the herd leader. Is this what you're doing there?
That's right. You got it. Hit the nail right on the head.
Steve, the thing where the light bulb really popped on in my head is we did a clinic at the ranch. And this woman had a one of your customers. She had a mule that was not willing and wanted to do his own thing. And we had spent a long time in that clinic just doing some basic foundation training, getting the animal to respect her as the herd leader. Well, as soon as we said, all right, folks, that's the clinic. Thanks for being here. And everyone's just chatting afterwards. It was almost as if in her mind, the training ignition got turned off. The training engine got turned off because she was standing and this mule was looking all over the place as she was talking. And I'm sitting there watching and I was thinking to myself, I think this mule is undoing everything that we just did because she wasn't right there correcting it in the moment. Will you talk real quick about why timing is so foundational when you are training?
Well, it's just like right there, you should be able to just roll your wrist, and that come along hit says, "No, listen to me." When you're going down the trail, the animal's looking around right and left. He's not paying attention to you. You're not the herd leader. He's looking to protect himself. Is there a monster over there? Is there a monster? What is that over there? You got the idea? So when you're standing there on the ground and you're talking with somebody, your thoughts should not be talking with somebody. It should be your mule is focused on you. Your mule doesn't leave you. Okay. And that's the biggest thing you want is straightness and your mule paying attention to you.
So this next video shows the idea of timing. This was probably about 8 years ago. And this real sweet teenage gal, she brought her gray mule, and this mule kept wanting to bump up into her, wanted to try to hit her. And so we worked with her on it. I'm going to bring it up here and I'm going to fast forward. And she was working on the correct timing. So while this is trying to correct a problem, it was all about timing. So let me bring it up.
Understand.
And you did a little bit of working ahead of time, and then we brought her up. And so what did you have her doing here?
Well, the mule, when she would rub his nose, which mules don't like to have.
Timing, wow. All right, do it again.
Okay, you see how the mule bumped her and tried to throw her hand away? They don't like that, okay? But now, wait a minute. I bought this mule. She should like anything I want,
Lady meant business.
even though they don't like it.
That
But
was
see,
good
her
timing.
timing,
Did you see that? Wow.
yeah, her
Good.
timing was really good.
You see how
About
it
the
gives us-
time the mule bumped her, she hit him with the come along hitch, and that was immediate. See, things like that, that builds your timing, okay? When the mule looks off to the right and you bump it back straight, that's your timing. Just standing there, okay, will help you improve your mulemanship, your communication, okay? Just standing there and keeping them straight. See how the mule bumped her and knocked her off, okay? Now watch this. Bam! Boy, she bumped him immediately. And then mule goes, whoa, what was that? That was pretty cool. That helps your timing. Now back at it again. Now the mule says, no, man. Notice the rope is loose, okay? She's not trying to hold on it really heavy. The rope is nice and loose. She's given the mule to letting him make a mistake. Get that in your mind, folks. Letting him make a mistake. And see that? Now the mule says, okay, I understand. Her timing was really good there. So that's one of many ways to look at your timing.
The last thing that I wanted to show at here on getting started was softening. You talk about softening. You talked about rolling your hands. I want to take a look at this video and just tell me what we're looking at here.
That y'all got to remember is that a foundation is built over a 6-month time frame, 4 to 6 hours a week, over a 6-month time frame. Okay, now, see how the nose is sticking out? Y'all see how the nose is sticking out? Kind of do over here just so you kind of see it. Now I'll take my hands and I'll roll my hands. He's bracing against pressure right now. I'm bumping my right hand. There he comes back. Now I'll roll my hands. Now he's breaking pressure there. Now I'll roll my hands there. Now I'll get him to drop his head a little bit. There.
So he's bracing into that, and you're trying to get him to put his nose down on the vertical.
Yes.
More there.
See him doing
See
it?
how I'm rolling my hands and he's dropping his head a little piece at a time? And the nose, right now, he's really pushing against this halter, really pushing against it. And so there's a, I'm gonna hook him up into a surcingle and show you something here. There's his head down again.
So why would you want to do this
down.
particular
Yeah,
one, Steve? Why would you work on this?
Because the mule is stiff. So what happens is the mule will then brace against you. And when you need to stop, he'll keep on going. When you need to turn, he'll keep on going his way. So this is building softness. This is taking all 5 major neck muscles, the one along the crest of the neck, the one down through the middle of the neck, the one along the esophagus, and the 2 along the shoulder. That is relaxing those. What most people do, horsemen, is they do lateral flexions. So they're bend their head way around the left, bend their head way around to the right, and they think they're softening them up. And on a horse, that does help. But on a mule, the donkey side comes out. That donkey tightens all 5 major neck muscles, and he's got you. But see, you could take a simple rope halter because the mule works off of his nose. Mules learn from the nose. Good, bad, and uglies. They all learn it all from their nose. So as you can see there, with a properly adjusted rope halter, I can teach my mule to neck rein. I can teach it to back up, and I can teach it to stop. Okay, and then eventually I can work on side pass turn on 4 and turn 9/4. Yep.
So you mentioned lateral flexions. That was the next thing that I wanted to ask is what are some techniques that we should avoid that might be popular or, mainstream with horses that aren't really good for the mule or the donkey? And you said lateral flexions, and because they stiffen and they brace into pain and they like to run through their shoulder. And so what
Yep.
you're doing right there is you really want soft and willing, and what you're doing is you're doing stiff and abrasive. And so that's
Yep.
why you don't like doing lateral flexions. I know desensitizing, one rein stop, disengaging the hindquarters. These are some other things. Will you talk a little bit about some of the other techniques that we should avoid because of the uniqueness of the mule and the donkey?
You bet. Okay, so with any of this stuff, the pulling makes a big difference with these animals. When they're doing lateral flexions, people will pull hard and stiff to get them to bend around. No, do it a little bit at a time to make a turn. Don't just make them pull on it. Okay, when you're doing disengaging hindquarters, they think by disengaging the hindquarters that the hindquarters is going to come around. They pick up on one lead rope, one rein, and that's what they call a one rein stop or disengaging hindquarters. Well, you can't do that on the side of a mountain. You can't do that when you're leading several pack animals and you got to make an emergency stop. You can't do it because obviously the terrain that you're on and the other position that you're in. Can you imagine me at the Grand Canyon or you at the Grand Canyon? You got 5 pack mules behind you. How can you possibly disengage hindquarters and make them go around when you got all those animals back there? And you got people on the trail, and it's a 1 mile drop off right here. So not it looks really good out in a corral on flat ground, but real thing, it doesn't work. So I don't do one rein stops. What I do is I ask tail to man. So I have both of my hands in direct reining position. I have my mule rider's martingale on them, and I can do lateral. I can do right, left with my hands, going nice and soft, okay? And asking, and I can do this with the halter as well. You want to do it with the halter first, then you want to do it with the martingale, then you can do it with the finish bit. But you're rolling your hands, okay? And they want to brace against you, then you ask by rolling your hands, you tell by going right, left, and you demand by putting a lot of pressure on it, okay? Ask, tell, demand. That way, then the next time you ask them to stop, they do it quickly rather than keep on going. Because when you pull on them, you're going to brace and make them go. So I don't do one brain stops. I do right brain stop, left brain stop, right brain stop, left brain stop. So right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and that will get them to understand that if you do not listen to me, you are going to be made uncomfortable. So therefore, right brain, left brain. A lot of people call it seesawing. Well, that's a name for it, I suppose, but it's basically what it is right brain listen to me, left brain listen to me.
Okay, so when we talk about dealing with problems, because things are going to come up, we had someone on a recent program say, I can't, my mule won't allow me to touch their belly. My mule won't allow me to get close. What can I do for this particular thing? And you had started to talk about how you want the come along rope and you want a quirk because you want those to be an extension of you. Well, we had a video, probably a mule about 6 years past, that did not want to pick up the rear foot. And so you spent a long time working with them, and we're going to play that video. And what I'd like for you to do, Steve, if you can, is help me understand how you dealing with this problem, what I can take from this and apply it to maybe a problem that I have coming up where my animal won't let me do this or I can't get my animal to do that. So I'm going to play this video. I'm going to fast forward it a little bit, and then you help me make that connection. And he
Now, what I
grabs a
did just
quirk
before that was I did some come along rope with him to get him to understand what to do.
before on this video.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so right here,
Yeah.
what are we seeing here, Steve?
Well, what I'm doing now is I've got my come along rope ready. And notice it's loose. And what I'm doing is teaching the mule to pick up his feet. But I'm also teaching the mule at the same time to respect the halter, the come along rope. Notice that time was less than the first time. First time he backed up pretty readily. Second time was less. And notice, watch this time. Now the mule hardly moved back at all. So that's what I'm saying. That's the timing that I used to get the mule to respond. Notice I'm wanting the mule to make a mistake. See how the lead rope is loose? Now, if he makes a mistake, I'll bump him. So he didn't make a mistake there. He did it right, so I didn't bump him. You see, you don't want to hold on to that rope, and he's never going to know what's right and what's wrong. You see, it's the second time. Another good one, okay? Notice the lead rope is loose, nice and relaxed. And again, it's going to be my timing. There, the mule picked it up nice and sweet and comfortable. That was really good. So I give him a little pet, okay? And I did the petting for everybody else. The main thing is I did the petting so that everybody can see there's a relaxing time between the two. You don't have to pet them. You just go ahead and there, boom. Now I can pick up the foot and the mule stands nice and quiet. Notice the ears, folks. Look at the ears, nice and quiet. Notice the mule looking at me, nice and quiet. The mule did everything just right. The mule was quiet. He didn't pull on me. But notice it didn't take much with that come along and that quirk to do it. And it was, again, going to be my timing, okay? So I'd worked on him a little bit before this. And just you didn't see it, but just maybe 5 minutes of general working. And the mule is now wanting to be my buddy. This is a trained mule. He bought this mule because he was trained. He spent a lot of money for a couple mules because they were trained. As you all can see, there's no foundation. They basically trained him to pull the foot away. They basically have disregard for that halter or come along rope on the nose. And that's the biggest thing. The disregard, the disrespect, because they didn't know how to build a foundation with the come along rope. And so the mule got disrespectful from the lead rope to the back foot. And now we have to fix it.
Steve, I want to talk about some of the easy mistakes that people will make. We already talked about timing, and I would say not being patient and really trying to rush through things. That's a big problem. Body language. You've said that in the past. How is body language a mistake that's easy to make?
Well, just like the horse would duck his head, the mule would duck his head and ask for permission to come into your herd. When you come into a corral and you look down to see where you're going to step and look back up, you just ask for permission from that mule to come into their herd. But if you look straight ahead, your shoulders are square, and you walk right toward that shoulder, that right there is saying, I am the herd leader. This is what I want of you.
Spending too much time on one thing. That's another mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot, folks. That's why I tell you do 3, 6, 9, 12. Because people say, oh, he's backing up. I think I'll back up another 50 foot. No, don't do that. Build a foundation. Get the 50 foot later on. Don't spend a lot of time in one area. You have to, in order to build a foundation, you have to do little pieces here and there, and then it'll all come together. Okay? We got one rider, Leslie, that we got a little picture of and stuff, and how it started making sense to her and how it all come together. And boy, I think you can read it. I think she wrote a little note too, didn't she, Dave?
Yeah, she did. This is her right there. Let me bring up that note real quick. But this was real fun to get in from her.
Yeah. So notice, folks, she's upright in the saddle. She's looking straight ahead. Okay. The animal is right there with her. The animal says, "Okay, let's present ourselves." Animal got right up and flowed. Now, hear what Leslie has to say.
She says, "Thank you for the free online class. I've been working in my form during all rides. I had forgotten how important it is for every ride. She is so relaxed. She is yawning. She is picking up her leads also now from a walk and not crossfiring. I was getting sloppy in my riding style and needed the refresher class. Thank you. Wishing you and your family a wonderful family season." She's talking about the basic equitation, I believe,
Yep.
or the equitation video that
Yep.
we did, the webinar. And then we've got, of course, the paid instructional video too.
Right. Right. And so, just as folks, we have to remember that training is communication. All right. Training is communication. When you talk to that mule, it is communication. Okay. So a trained mule is only going to be as, listen to this word, only as trained as you are, only putting forth the effort as you are. If you're sloppy and slouching in the saddle, guess what? You're going to get an animal that's going to be nonchalant. He's the first one that's going to spin around and take the other way because he's seen something he didn't like. Okay. So your equitation through your training, your communication is what makes that animal right and wrong.
Steve, the last thing, and I'll go through this real quick because you explained this to me, and I want to speak it out loud so I remember it. Another easy mistake to make is putting a time frame on the animal, saying we're going to do a week on this, and we're going to do a month on this, or we're going to do 3 days. You don't put a time frame on the animal. The animal will be ready when he's ready. So how do you know he's ready? When he's dropping his head, when he's licking his lips, when he's quiet. When he is just as quiet, you've said this a few times today, Steve, when he is just as quiet when he ends as he was when he began. You're looking for what the mule is saying, and that's when he's saying that he's ready. Anything else to add there, Steve?
No, that's really good, Dave. And the lackadaisical part is they decide one day they want to put a halter on rather than a come along. All right. And you don't want to do that. You want to why go and go on to other steps when you don't have them right in the come along rope. When you can walk up, put the rope on the ground like you saw me in the beginning of the videos. Okay. Now I'd only trained on that mule just a few minutes. And yes, I know, folks. Yeah, it was you that did it, Steve. All right. But we had a disposition, and all I needed to do was take where that mule had some training and put some buttons on it so that the mule to respect that come along rope. Okay. We get lackadaisical, Dave, and then the mule does, and then pretty soon we've done. Now, I'm not saying you have to be right at it all the time, okay? But when you are communicating, if that mule even flicks an ear to the right, they're not thinking about you; they're thinking about themselves. Okay.
All right, Steve. We've gotten through everything. I've got a picture here that I want to get to. I want to share it. This was well. I'll let you tell the story. Let me share. Let me share the pictures here, and you tell the story, and then we'll get to some questions.
This feller's in Florida. He's not a trainer. He's a veteran, and he's raised these two colts. He's doing it all on his own. And notice, he doesn't have a lot of money. He'll tell you, he's just trying to get things through. So he did something as simple as bought a surf single, something as simple as put a rope on it. Okay, and that's fine because all that surf single is for is to be able to keep the reins into place where you need them. And it doesn't the cinch doesn't even have to be tight. It just needs to be there to balance. So all a surf single is for is to balance those reins so that you got them in the correct place. So you don't need to breach him. You see, you don't need to have the cinches tight. But notice even right here, the mule is standing nice and quiet and not tied up because he's got the come on hitch. Even though his buddy's there, his nose is on a vertical. It's hard for him to get his neck soft because that neck comes up out of his shoulders. Now look, he's not tied. You see that? And the guy's back there working on a foot. You don't have to tie him, folks. That's because if they have good foundation with the come along rope, you can do anything you want to do. Okay, but here's the problem: everybody's interested in ride. All right, well then you're going to have problem. Build a foundation, and the riding will come easy.
Steve, anything you want to say before we're all done here this evening?
Oh, good job there, Dave. You put together a good show. I hope everybody gets a pretty good idea here. Did you hear me talk about riding anytime? No, just a little bit when we were talking about Leslie and how she has progressed. Okay, you didn't hear me say, "Let's get a saddle on and go riding." No, you're spending time on the ground is what's going to help your communication and timing with your mule. Happy trails, Merry Christmas, and remember, we have a Savior for the Savior.
That's right. God bless everybody. Take care. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye bye now.
Right. Bye.